Right, I've got this excellent piece of equipment for the workshop to show you today, and it's made by Andonstar, a Chinese company which makes microscopes. This is the Andonstar AD407. I have the ADSM201 already, and I also have one of their small digital USB microscopes. So Andonstar contacted me and asked me if I'd like to do another review of one of their microscopes, and also offered me the choice so I could actually choose my own to review. I chose the AD407 because I knew it was a brilliant microscope and it has some excellent features. It came in the post well packaged in one of their boxes like all their microscopes do, and inside the box there's the user's manual, clearly written, and nice pictures. On the second page there's a list of components, what's inside the box. You get the heavy duty aluminium base with the LED lights already attached. You get the optical bracket, it's an aluminium bracket which screws to the base with two Allen bolts. You get the Allen bolts and the key provided, the Allen key. There's a UV filter which screws onto the end of the lens to protect it. Mine was already screwed onto the lens. There's a switch cable, an HDMI cable, a remote control, some spring clips which go on the base here if you want them on there for holding slides or whatever to the base, and you get the USB 2-pin plug socket to power it up. And obviously you get the microscope itself, or the optical stack as they call it. On that page there's a simple set of instructions on how to attach the bracket to the base, put it together, and it's all very straightforward. On the first page you have safety and maintenance and the basic parameters. And rather than reading out all those basic parameters, I'll put a link below for this microscope and you can have a look on the site and go through those yourself. The image sensor is 4 megapixels HD sensor. The video output is UHD, FHD and HD. The video format is MP4 and the photo format is JPG. And the magnification ratio is up to 270 times on an HDMI monitor of 27 inch. So to power the microscope up, put the USB into the plug socket. I use one of these adapters, and this one's fused. So plug it into that one and into the mains, and this normally switches the microscope on automatically. And then you have 6 control buttons on the front here which are very positive. This is the on-off one here. It's a long press for off, a short press for on. And you can control it as well with this switch unit here. This one has the on-off switch and the brightness control. On the top of the microscope you have the sockets for the plugs obviously, and a micro SD card slot, plus there's some LED lights there which light up when the unit's on. So the second button in from the left is the M button, or menu button, and it's a long press on that one to get the menu up. Then you have the up and down arrows to go through those menus. You have resolution, exposure, record audio, date stamp, time-lapse record, sharpness, freeze, contrast and colour. And press the menu twice and it goes into setup, and then you have net setting, date and time, language, TV mode, frequency and format, default setting and version. So it's all very quick to run through those menus and settings, change them to the preferred setting, press OK, and then if you want to save the setting on the monitor, you must do a long press on this on-off switch here, rather than turning the microscope off with the cable switch. This one will not save the settings. This is the only button that saves those in the menu. So the first thing I really liked about this microscope is the monitor being so large. It's a 7-inch display. You can see the difference from this little one here. With this small one, I plugged this one into an HDMI monitor and use it like that. But I don't want to have a monitor in my workshop. I haven't got room for that, so the 7-inch display is absolutely ideal. So on the back of the microscope bracket here is a couple of thumb wheels which operate the up and down movement of the microscope and the magnification. When you get the magnification right, you turn the lens barrel to get the focusing correct. And the first thing I noticed about this was the lovely smooth operation of this metal construction lens. It's really lovely and smooth and feels really professional. And many people use these for soldering purposes. And I'll show you a circuit board there, or a small circuit board with a fuse on it. There's the fuse. And you can see the lovely clear image there. And that image there is under the workshop lighting, but I can increase the brightness by pointing the LEDs directly onto the piece I'm looking at. And you can see there the lovely crystal clear image. Just turn one of my spotlights off to show that. So it's an excellent microscope for soldering purposes on PCB boards or whatever, and there's plenty of room between the lens and the workpiece. This also has an excellent feature on this microscope, in that the bracket at the back here can be tilted back, so the lens is moved further away from the workpiece, but this also gives like the impression of 3D. So it's obviously not true 3D, but the lens is obviously looking down at an angle rather than directly down onto the components, and therefore you can see sides of the components as well, which gives the impression of 3D. So you can see that there. It's very impressive to actually look at that picture. And when you first get the microscope, you may find that the bracket here is a bit tight to operate. What they've done on the left hand side of the bracket at the base here, they've used a self-locking nut, and this is designed to be adjusted without it loosening off itself. So what I did on mine was loosen it off by half a turn. It's still tight where the microscope won't fall down, but it's much easier and smoother to operate. So you can see there that it's an excellent microscope for soldering purposes. I use mine in the workshop for examining tooling bits like these screw taps. You can get a really good look at the tops of the cutting edges there, and on that one I can immediately see there's some wear on that one. There's a little chip out of the cutting edge at the front there. And they're excellent for examining threads of components. This is a 2BA screw here. And just adjust that LED onto that one and use the cable switch to turn the brightness of the LED up. Like that. So that's the cable switch there, adjusting those LED lighting. Turn the brightness down or up again, and then you can use the remote control to actually control the brightness of the monitor and bring the brightness up on that. You must point the remote at the microscope, but you can see there that excellent image. And the next one is a 12BA screw, just to give a comparison of the magnification there. Another thing that I'd like to point out with these microscopes is if you don't like the background surface when you're looking at a component, you can put a piece of paper, coloured paper or white paper on the base there and maybe improve the image. I found that different colours sometimes can make it look much better. But that's a piece of A4 white paper. And then bring the lens nearer to the subject to increase the magnification and refocus it. And I think that's really impressive. And next is my Microscope rule. That even picks out all the scratches on the rule that I never knew were there. And I forgot to mention that you have full adjustment of the screen, and you can see there that when I held the microscope it moved down itself. There's a locking screw on the back so that when you get it in the desired magnification you can actually screw lock the back with a little thumb wheel. And I also use the microscope to examine the tools that I grind up. You can check a tool to see the radius and obviously the cutting edges. This is an HSS internal groove tool that I've made. It does actually make the tool look a bit rough ground, but it's not that way. It's just a bit liney on the top there where it's been ground, but you can see there that I've got a reasonable radius on that tool. And they're also excellent for examining carbide inserts. This is the DCMT 070204 insert. And you can see a little bit of chipping on the edge of that tool there that you may not be able to see with the naked eye. Really excellent tools for this purpose. And you can see there the radius close up and a little bit of damage or wear around that radius. And this is the same carbide insert on a piece of A4 white paper. Not only does a background like this improve the image sometime and give more clarity, but it's also excellent for actually manoeuvring the object around under the lens without getting your fingers in the way. And like I say, you can use all different colours to get a better picture. And there you can see around the side of the insert. And another thing that's excellent in the engineering workshop is using this microscope to examine dies. This is an M7 die. When I put it on the microscope there, I can actually turn it round and examine the cutting edges on the inside of that die very clearly and easily, and see whether any of those cutting surfaces are damaged. I can even tilt the die up on the table there by hand and get a better view. Another thing that I really like about this microscope is the great depth of field it has, and also that you can increase the focal length or the distance between the lens and the components you're working on or looking at. On the barrel of the lens here, there's a groove down here similar to the one at the top. This is the normal position of the microscope that they show in the book, secured in the bracket. But if I loosen those screws off at the back that hold the microscope into the ring there, lift it up, you can see a groove there with a red line, and there's a groove at the top here. You could actually put the microscope into the ring so that the red line is just on the top of that ring. Use that as a marker and tighten that into the ring bracket there. You can still focus with that, but you can see a larger image of the circuit board there below, or the component that you may be working on or whatever, and get it in focus. It gives the greater distance between the lens and the workpiece, so you have much more room, and that makes it easier to use tools under the lens or whatever. And this is the image that you get. And this is the Microscope rule in that position. And that's the Microscope rule back in the normal position on the bracket. And then you can do so much more with the remote. It takes 2 AAA batteries which you have to buy, and these are really good having a remote with a microscope. When you actually touch the buttons on the screen here, there's a tendency to actually move the microscope. When you use the remote, you obviously don't move anything. So I can bring up the menu and do all that like I showed at the beginning. I can adjust the brightness of the screen or whatever, like that. I can use the optical zoom. I'll just bring the brightness up there a bit and then zoom in with the optical zoom. So that's an excellent feature. You can turn on a cross there. I don't know whether you can see that one. You can just see it on the screen there. And you can put grids up on the screen. You can change the image to inverse black and white mode. And then just do all the other things as well, like capture photos, record video and playback mode and many other things. So I think it's an excellent microscope. It's well made, feels very professional and is nice and easy to operate. The instructions are nice and easy to read and understand. Overall, it's a brilliant piece of kit.